are listening to Real Estate Today. To reach Deb tomorrow or with questions and comments about the show, please send an email to Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. That's Deb at realrealestatetoday.com. Now, back to this week's program.
All right, welcome back to Real Estate Today. You can find us on Facebook. I'm here with best-name lender in the state of Indiana, Karen Rostel, and we are going through the 5 steps it takes to buy a home. And this is going to be a series over the next couple of shows. And so we are talking about the first step, which is to prepare to buy a home. And this is actually going to take us a couple shows because this is the most important step. And as we were talking about before the break, it's the one that people skip over because Karen thinks it's because they're afraid. They're afraid of what they might find out, that they can't qualify for a mortgage. And so
until someone can crush that dream for somebody.
The dream is alive.
It's alive.
All right. I'm all about keeping dreams alive. I think the other thing is it's not like the super fun step, right? The super fun step is going to look at houses and dreaming about houses and looking at pictures of houses. That's why HGTV is so popular. But this is the most important step because you will hit roadblocks and brick walls in the fun step of searching for a home if you don't do all this other stuff first. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to boil it down, try and make it real easy for you. And so the first part of preparing, in my opinion, because I'm a realtor, I say first thing you need to do is pick a realtor. And then we'll pick a lender after that. But let's talk about picking a realtor. One of the biggest things that people don't understand. I know I didn't understand it before I got into real estate. You just start calling the name on the sign in front of the house or the name because you're going to step 2, remember? So we skip step 1. We're step 2. We're searching for homes. Mm-hmm. So what do? You want to see the house. Who do you call? You call the name on the sign in front of the house.
Right.
And as we've talked about before, it's important to understand that name on that sign in front of the house is representing the seller. They have a contract with the seller to represent the seller and not you. So think about that real hard for a second.
And what's so funny is that I never really thought much about that either. Yeah. Driving around until I got in the business and I thought, well, duh. I mean, once I was in the mortgage industry, I'm like, of course, that makes so much sense. And why didn't I just know that when I wasn't in the business?
Which is why I go around and tell everyone that. And it's like, that's totally fine. And I always say, I didn't know it before literally 6 months before I got into the business, was working for a property management company. I'm looking for some investment properties to buy, and I'm calling the names on the signs. Like, that's how close I was to being a realtor, and I didn't know it. So there's no shame. But just think about that. Now, it doesn't cost you anything as a buyer.
That was the other thing that no one ever really...
aha moment for you.
No one, yeah.
I have a lot of first-time buyers who'll come in here and they'll say, well, how do you, how do you get paid? Or how do I pay you kind of thing? And I think, oh, yeah, I probably should go over that. So it doesn't cost anything as a buyer. I mean, it kind of does, but it doesn't because that's negotiated between the seller and the listing agent, how much commission is being charged. And then the listing agent offers a portion of that to the buyer's agent to bring a buyer.
Yeah.
And that's how we get paid.
And I think a lot of times that's not even shared. I mean, because I think we watch a lot of TV now that indicates that, like I love $1 Million Listing, don't get me wrong, but like, the potential commission, if they list or sell this, it's going to be X dollars. And that can scare a buyer, like if they think they have to cover that.
Yeah. So that's something to think about as well. But especially in today's market, and even if you're listening to this a year from now, because for the next 3 or 4 months, or 3 or 4 years, we're probably going to be in a seller's market, which means that homes are going quick. We have a shortage of homes, so there's more buyers competing for every home out there. So especially in a market like that, you need a realtor. If you're trying to buy, you need a realtor who is on the lookout for you. Someone who spots new listings and hears about new listings the second it hits the market. Someone who knows what a fair deal is. And so to that, I want to talk a little bit about, how you find a good realtor, but picking someone who works in the local market is really important. Something to understand is that realtors are licensed. We're licensed by state, but that doesn't mean that, I'm the best choice for to buy a house up in Indianapolis, because that's not a market that, I get the latest and greatest information, that I have the connections, that I have the, networking capabilities. So
right.
Something to really think about, because I'm seeing that more and more realtors coming from other areas. And We'll talk about that a little bit more later, but it does make things a little tricky. And you really want a realtor who knows how to put together a deal that's going to appeal to a seller. And obviously, but also meet your interests. And that's why it's important to have someone working for you. This is probably a good time to review procuring cause while we're here. Karen?
I know, I feel like I should get my essay book out because I'm ready to write my answer.
Can you tell us what procuring cause is?
No.
Oh,
I just drew a blank. No, that's the one where...
I know there's a bunch we threw out at one time.
It's not where you represent both sides,
no,
is
that's
it?
Limited agency.
All right.
Procuring cause is sort of an internal rule. Got it?
I got it now. That if someone else shows me the house that I eventually end up buying, but I'm using you in the end to purchase that home, that that initial realtor receives the commission for that.
Yeah, it's this rule of he who shows the house gets paid, basically.
Okay.
And that's really an important thing. It's a weird situation because it's an internal rule, right? It's nothing that you as the buyer necessarily get in trouble for, but it's something that creates a lot of waves and makes a deal really muddy and confusing if say Joe shows you the house and then you call me and say, Deb, I want to write an offer on this house. And I don't ask the right questions, and I write the offer, and then Joe finds out, but Joe did all the legwork. Mm-hmm. Is it fair that I'm getting paid because I just wrote the contract, but Joe did all this legwork, right?
Right.
Joe may be a jerk. I don't know Joe. But it's just an internal rule that the real estate community has to kind of keep things fair and to keep people communicating and being honest and open. So that's something to think about, and this is why you want to pick that realtor first before you just start calling around. I know a lot of people, this is always interesting to me, I call them the serial callers. They'll call you, and they know enough to know what's going on. They say, well, I'm not working with a realtor, I'm just calling listing agents. Because they'll call me on one of my listings, and they'll say that I'm just calling listing agents. And then while I'm showing the house, they'll take a call from another realtor because they're going to go look at that person's listing afterwards. So it tells me that they know enough.
They just want to get into that to view the house?
I don't understand. I don't know the point of why they wouldn't have their own realtor or their own representation, why they want to make things more complicated by calling 36 different realtors and not have anyone who truly understands what their goals are to help them meet their goals.
Right.
Like this was an investor. The last one was just a couple weeks ago. He's like, he's an investor. You have goals you want to meet. Your things you're trying to accomplish. Why wouldn't you want someone helping you do that? I don't know. I get that there's, some not so great realtors out there, but you know what? There's a lot of really good realtors out there too. Mm-hmm. So you kind of have to just sort of keep fishing until you find the right one. It doesn't save you money. Sometimes I wonder that. They think, it'll save me money. Because if I just use the listing agent and I kind of just protect my own interests, then maybe I can get them to cut the commission and that will get passed down to me and I'm able to negotiate a lower price.
See, I would have never have thought that, but I could see where someone might think that.
Yeah, that's generally not the case, though, I'm telling you. Generally not the case. You are not going to save money. So there you go. Can you change realtors? I had someone recently, there was a couple years ago that they were looking at houses with a realtor and just didn't feel like it was a great fit. And they were kind of like, I don't really know what to do and I feel bad. And, but it's important that you find someone who, you're comfortable with. I would definitely say, put yourself in the realtor's shoes if you can and don't string them along. If you're not interested in using them, don't just, have them show you houses knowing that you're
Speak your truth early.
There you go, Oprah. Speak your truth early, as Oprah would say. But this is why, it's helpful not just to pick. When we talk about pick a realtor, it's not just about picking a realtor, throw a dart at a dartboard, but develop a relationship with that realtor so that, you feel like they understand where you're coming from and they have your back. Because This is the most, you're not buying a candy bar. This is the most expensive thing you'll ever buy, and you want someone to have your back.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely.
So how do you pick a realtor? How do you go about picking a realtor? I'm going to say the easiest way is to ask me. Problem solved.
That is probably
Well,
the
just
easiest.
call me. Pick me if you're local in Bloomington, Monroe County, Owen County, Greene County, even a little bit North Lawrence County. I can help you. But even if you don't, I can definitely help you. I've got real estate connections all over the country. So I do that a lot for people. They contact me. They say, can you help me find a good realtor that I could trust? And I kind of help make the connection because sometimes it is a little bit of a crapshoot. I definitely recommend asking friends and family. But I definitely don't recommend picking someone because they're like related to your hairdresser. I don't know, do you ever have clients like that?
Yes.
That you have borrowers who come to you and they've made it clear they don't really like their realtor, but they feel obligated to use them because somehow they're related to somebody.
Or they'll ask me questions because they don't want to trouble the lender that they are currently using, which happens to be a distant relative. It's very similar on my side of the table.
Yeah, for sure. I do think open houses can be a good way to casually meet realtors. I would say remember that realtors do open houses to try and pick up buyers. So it's kind of a good way to gauge how aggressive and creepy they are. Someone who friends you on Facebook 20 minutes after you leave the open house, which is, I've been told by people happen. I think that's a little, creepy, and that was a good sign. Hey, that's not the realtor we want to use. But it's a good way. I've actually had buyers stalk me through open houses. So like their friends said, oh, you need to meet Deb. You should use Deb. So they like see I'm doing an open house and they come just casually and chit chat for a little while. And then they come back. They go, oh, well, so-and-so told me to call you. And, I should
they have to
you.
test the waters.
Yeah.
They have to see how you interact.
I get that.
Whenever you don't know that you're like
right,
on the
exactly.
spot.
No, but that's like totally, totally cool. So, all right, when we come back from break, we are going to talk about interviewing a realtor and what that looks like. So stick around. You're listening to Real Estate Today, your home for smart real estate.